I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of Lake County School District number 61, August 13, 2013. I think we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
My pen.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now, if you will indulge me, I started thinking a while back that I just had some things to say about basically our mission and what we do in this room. And I put it out to the other board members, so I'd love to hear their thoughts concerning that. So I wrote this. This meeting is being held to conduct the business necessary to educate our children. Let us use the visions we share to that end and to help bridge the differences we may have. Embrace the challenge to do this work to the absolute best of your abilities. We're all here for only one reason: the children of Blaine County have the best education we can provide them. Leave the rest of this stuff in your car. Thank you. Okay, do we have any additions, corrections, modifications, or substitutions, Lori?
Yes, we do. There are two. We have one addition to the consent agenda, and it comes under Section 7, Item H, approval of personnel exiting and entering. We have one addition recommending for hire. His name is Rocio Hotland. He's a paraprofessional at Hemingway Elementary School. That has been added since the board received their packets on Wednesday. We have one deletion from the consent agenda, Section 7. Item E, approval of student teaching contract for Daisy Baeza under the direction of Daisy Monjaras. This is only because of paperwork and not receiving it all in time for tonight's meeting. So that will be deleted from tonight's consent agenda and will be postponed until September's regular meeting.
Okay, great. That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Item 4, oath of office for our newest board member.
We have to get a motion to accept that.
Oh,
Excuse
we
me.
do. Okay. Do I hear a motion to accept the appointment of Elizabeth Schwertle to?
Changes to the consent.
What?
No,
Motion to accept the
Oh.
changes.
I'm sorry. Thinking way ahead of me. Do I hear a motion to accept the changes to the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passed. Now we have
Stand up.
the oath of office.
Okay, in front of the room with Lori?
Yes.
Again?
Let's start.
I think Lori will have you come up front.
Lori's busy.
Okay. Liz, if you can just repeat after me. I do affirm
I do affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and the laws of the state,
the Constitution and the laws of the state,
and that I will faithfully discharge all the duties of the office of trustee
and that I will faithfully discharge all the duties of the office of trustee
of Blaine County School District number 61 in Blaine County,
of Blaine County School District number 61 in Blaine County,
State of Idaho, according to the best of my ability.
State of Idaho, according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Lori.
Great. We have a full board, first time in a while. Item 5, accolades. John, Lonnie, one of you going to lead that?
I am, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you. We actually have 3. The first one goes like this. Good day, Board of Trustees and neighbors. I am dropping you a note to inform all of you of the proven value of the AP courses at Wood River High School. My son, Chandler Gifford, and I toured 4 top 10 engineering schools in California last week. We visited University of California, Santa Barbara, California Polytechnical State University, California Institute of Technology, and Harvey Mudd College. We discovered that Chandler's academic accomplishments in his 8 AP courses and advanced math has competitively positioned him to not just be eligible to apply, but be accepted at all 4 schools, including Caltech. In our Caltech tour and administration briefing, we discovered that Chandler was the most advanced math student in the room of 25 highly advanced students. Chandler's hard work since 6th grade to now as a senior in math allowed him to complete Calculus A-B and Calculus BC, which then allowed him to apply and get accepted to Stanford Online High School for Multivariable Calculus 1 and 2 as a senior this year. The Caltech administration briefing was most interested in the number of AP courses and advanced calculus as opposed to IB programs. This was directly stated clearly. Harvey Mudd was the same. As well, UCSB and Cal Poly accept all his AP courses, which will allow him to only need 9 credits to complete his freshman year and his master's program in engineering in 4.5 years in their 4-in-1 master program. The IB program helps with acceptance in these schools, but not in the shortening the first year load or cost. We will save over $30,000 at all of these schools. If Chandler is accepted in Caltech or Harvey Mudd, both basically guaranteed less than $20,000 in student debt by graduation. The AP program has allowed Chandler to be here at this moment in his life. For your information, Chandler has gotten a 5.5 on all but one of his AP national exams and the 4 out of 5 in U.S. History AP, which was the one AP course required by Caltech that only 3 students on tour had completed. Bottom line, the AP program and advanced math from 6th grade to 12th in the school district does put all students in a very strong position when moving on to college and saves a large amount of money. Acceptance to all public schools and free rides at privates. Sincerely, Charlie Gifford, President and Chief Manufacturing Consultant, 21st Century Manufacturing Solutions, and Charlie is here tonight. So, Charlie, thank you for the letter. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'd like to add a few things. A lot of you guys know me, but
Grab that microphone.
Yes.
so, we worked with the school district throughout both of my sons. Was it on?
It's on.
Okay. Throughout both of my sons' journeys through the school system, and we pushed the barrier, but the barrier gave and kept moving forward. I mean, from 6th grade to now, it's been a continual journey of working together to move forward. And from taking literally as a 6th grader, where he was bored with math at 5th and 6th grade and was able to take algebra, A, B, and BC online, and then geometry online as an 8th grader, and then working with the high school to get A, B, and BC into the curriculum. It moves things very forward. It's not just for advanced students, because it sets, like, a high school diploma in Germany now is an associate's degree here, all right? But but having that ability to move that forward and save that much money and be in a position at this point in his life, he's overwhelmed right now, but it's a good place to be for him. I mean, I am an educator myself. I'm actually, I've been teaching for 15 years. I'm well known in my field. I'm actually starting an international training academy as of last week with a global firm out of Europe, and I'm very much see students, engineering students from around the world. I've taught on 5 continents myself, and it's just very important. Math is a universal language, and it carried so much weight in all 4 of these engineering schools. And then, like with what was interesting about all 4 of them is they've all changed their engineering curriculums dramatically from when I was an engineer. because it's very project-based from a freshman on. And like Chandler has been working with Brian all summer building a quadcopter from scratch with beta programming for his senior project, which he finished last week. And it's these types of activities which is really going to prepare him to be competitive in his life. And that is, I would say there are some lessons learned from this. So when you look at the Caltech on their admin page, what they basically show is, sorry for my disorganization here, they basically have, advanced placement classes. He listed these AP classes, and it wasn't that IB was discounted because there were IB students in the room, but they wanted you to have the AP classes because they wanted you to be at the highest level of whatever school system you came from. And they even gave an example of a kid from Roanoke, Virginia, where the school system had taught intelligent design, and they accepted him into that environment because he had maxed out what that school system provided. And so where the other thing we learned is that like the AP English is not accepted, even at the UC schools, but the dual credit college English is. So whoever figured that out at the high school, kudos to them, because that college dual credit saves us money where the AP English wouldn't have. So anyway,
That's great.
so it was just a really great experience, and he's got a lot of options. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you,
It's a great story, Charlie. It really is. Thank you.
So Dr. Barber, you learn now what happens when you ask Charlie Gifford if he has anything more. Charlie, we had a conversation, 3 years ago, and we were discussing that wall that Chandler was potentially going to hit, and it is wonderful to have you here saying that that he didn't hit a wall.
Well, we worked with it. We kept
Yeah.
pushing it. And
Yeah,
pushing it.
well, it's people like you that help contribute to the
AD
betterment.
and Jarovich and IDLA,
Yeah.
they all help.
Well, thank you. Don't ever ask him about the offside rule. Sorry. Ever. That's still ongoing 7 years later. Okay, next, accolade for Rex.
Yep, we do. Dear Board, the National Association for Pupil Transportation, NAPT, is pleased to announce that Rex Squires, CDPT Transportation Director with Blaine County School District, has completed the NAPT Special Needs Transportation Training Program. Rex is only the 62nd person in the nation to achieve this goal. The NAPT Special Needs Transportation Training is an endorsement program developed to encourage individuals involved in school transportation to enhance their knowledge about transporting students with disabilities and to promote excellence in leadership for the community of transportation personnel serving children of all ages with special needs. As part of improving transportation service to all district students, Rex has taken the challenge to learn about the laws, services, and programs available to help students with special needs. Every student has challenges, and by better understanding those challenges, the transportation staff will help improve the educational experience and success of every student. Congratulations, Rex. And I just want you to know that Sean Binion wrote that letter. So thank you, Sean, for doing it. Rex, congratulations. So now, Debbie, if you ever need any advice, there's the guy.
I know.
We have one more short one, Mr. Chairman. Dear Board, I would like to take this time to acknowledge the hard work and dedication of Mr. John Blackman to the Blaine County School District over the past 30 years and his pursuit of lifelong learning experiences. In addition to completing two advanced graduate degrees, Mr. Blackman has recently completed his Professional Human Resources certification. The multiple hours of study, in addition to the 4-hour exam required to achieve this, is no small task and deserves recognition. Again, I would like to thank him for his continued efforts to be the best he can be in his efforts to serve our students, patrons, employees of the board and the Board of Trustees. Congratulations, John. And that letter was also written by Trustee Binion. Thank you, Trustee Binion.
Thank you, Lonnie.
Can I add something, Paul?
I think you've already done enough.
What can I say? No, I'm really impressed by the forward thinking and really trying to further one's professionalism. I know in my career it's difficult to do that while working, and I really applaud both of you and all the people in Blaine County School District that do that.
Great, great. Thank you, Sean. Okay. Next item, public comment. We have 4, I believe, people that have signed up to speak. First one up is Barb Mercer. If you could come up to the podium.
Hi there.
What's your name?
My name is Barb Mercer,
Thank you.
and I am a newcomer to the valley. I've been here a whole year and a half. And I am from a very large school district. I just have to say that I have my administrative degree, and I was curriculum supervision, federal programs monitor, college professor, and a literacy coach. In our high schools, there were 4 with staffs of 80, 35 elementary schools, 5 middle schools. So, yeah, we were not small. And I've come here, and I've just had so much fun skiing and bike riding, but, you know, I'm just ready to go. And I have a suggestion, a comment that I'd like to make as a newcomer. What I've done is I've just kind of been reading the newspaper and clipping out all the things about schools. And as all of you are well aware, there's very interesting issues going on, you know, the highs and the lows and the goods and the bads. And I understand budgets and all of that. But I did notice that there are a lot of very, very brilliant people, and I've met quite a few in my small time here that are very, very bright and, you know, are community members. Some of which that I've read about in the paper would be Jim Bronson, Barbara Ann Spence Browning, Holmes Lund, Kathleen Barker, Gary Hoffman, Ellen Madville, just lots of information there. And my suggestion, just for the new board to think about, coming from another land, is how about a financial advisory board that consists of school and community people who might be very involved in finances, planning, and that kind of thing. I see it in your papers. I know there are things going on out there. And my feeling is, as a taxpayer now, I live in Sun Valley, I could be very helpful. My husband's a Stanford business grad. He's CFO with Simpson Timber for a long time and working as a turnaround person. And we're both here. And I'm just thinking that a financial advisory board of school district people, teachers, parents, and then people not involved in the school districts, but maybe with backgrounds that could be helpful, because there are a lot of issues out there. I'm not going to bring them all up, but I rarely see them. So a review board is my suggestion, and I have written out a rationale and the ideas and who should be on it, and reporting, of course, back to the superintendent and the board. We have 2 new board members. So I just wanted to drop that idea. I'll write it up. I have a lot more depth about it, but this is not the place or time, because I know I have 3 minutes, and I'm just excited to join, and I would certainly volunteer my time and expertise, because this valley is a lot of fun, but I need to get to work. So thank you.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing what you say. Next up, Captain Noble.
Good evening. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to present a proposal that we have been working on for a while, about 6 or 8 months. We've formed a group of parents, grandparents, and local garden enthusiasts, organic farmers, of which I am one, as well as being a landscape architect, to see if we can introduce more nutritional food into the school system. Both fresh foods from local suppliers, local farmers, and gardens in each of the schools, and a program that integrates gardens, mathematics, science, art, all of the disciplines that could be brought to that table. Nutrition is really an important part of what makes a student successful. Many of our students, unfortunately, do not have parents like Charlie, so they could benefit from, number one, learning about nutrition and being able to choose healthy foods for themselves if they are not provided healthy foods by their families. We've been researching on the internet other school programs. The city of Boston has a very interesting program. Boise has had a farm-to-school program for a number of years. And the Gooding School District, a district that is much smaller than ours, not as advanced in many of their programs, and much more rural than our community, has a wonderful program that is very well established and that I think we could use as a model for a program in our community. We've provided a proposal for you, and we would be glad to discuss it further in detail. I think that's probably 3 minutes. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Or we will wait to hear from you after you've had a chance to review the
I
proposal.
just have one question. You've given a copy of the proposal to Lori.
Yes.
Okay, so she can just
We've given
look at that.
10 and 12.
Actually, I have copies for you guys.
Can I ask a question? Do you have it available electronically that you could email it to us?
It is online.
It is online?
We have a Facebook page.
Okay.
Our group does.
And,
I could also scan it and send it to you that way.
okay, thank you. Thanks, Lori.
Any other questions from the board?
The Facebook page, please, on that card.
No? Okay,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Doctor. Next, we have Pamela Plowman. Would you like us to read this before you speak?
Please not.
My name is Pamela Plowman, and I live at 111 East Myrtle Street in Haley. I am just coming tonight to put another bug in your ear about something that I've been looking at a lot over the last few weeks, and that is how boards govern. And I've discovered something called the policy governance model. I read that it's well known all over the world, but I never have heard of it before, and I don't know if you guys have heard of it yet. Have you heard of the policy Carter governance model? Okay, so this is an introduction to it, but I've handed out to you. I've also sent you an email with links to the website for the policy governance model and some books that they have that are really excellent. Basically, you see a couple of the really good books. One is Boards That Make a Difference, A New Design for Leadership, which argues that along with education, we need to transform that the way that we govern in boards needs to transform too, and it's a really nice, clear, concise way of governing that really gives a lot of independence to staff and still accountability for everyone. So I wanted to bring that up. There's also a book here, Reinventing Your Board. They actually send people out to help them put this policy in place. It's a complete transformation, basically, of how boards have operated traditionally. So I just wanted to ask if you would consider this as a model for how the board operates. I know you're going into a retreat, so perhaps you have some time to look at that then. And thank you for your service to our community, and I hope that we can really do really good, strong things now, especially with a governance policy like this. It'd be really great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one more. Ms. Barbara Browning.
My handouts.
Okay.
There's nothing.
Thank you.
Wayne County School District Board of Trustees. First, I'd like to thank each one of you for serving our community as a school board member. I know this is a time-consuming and occasionally difficult job, and I do appreciate your efforts, as do many other members of the public. I'd like to suggest something to you that would make your job easier and allow members of our community to become involved with their school district. That something is the creation of a District Accountability Committee, DAC, to help trustees gather information and make informed decisions. Aspen School District has been utilizing such a committee with great success, and I believe we can too. The committee would be comprised of members of the community and taxpayers, some of whom may not even live here full-time, but have the expertise to provide valuable input. The board would choose these members to serve one-year renewable terms. A district accountability committee would have multiple purposes, but foremost would be to make recommendations to the board regarding priorities for spending school district money. This is paramount because our spending should be directly linked to our students' performance and academic achievement. We are all here to promote learning by our students, and that should be the purpose of every expenditure by the district. The DAC would ensure our spending is focused on our BCSD mission and student accomplishments. The committee would also discuss whether district leadership, personnel, and infrastructure are advancing or impeding implementation of the district's performance plan. The DAC would be completely involved in reviewing all aspects of the district, including academic performance measurement, personnel performance measurement, infrastructure assessments, leadership performance, and relations and communications with taxpayers. The DAC would also utilize subcommittees called task force formed by the board to study particular issues such as SAT test scores, possible curriculum enhancements, governance policies, and possible changes to the school year calendar. A few examples. Additionally, I would like to second what Barb Mercer talked about. I'd ask you to consider forming a financial advisory board, also used by Aspen. This would be entirely separate from the DAC with a different focus. But again, community members would be invited to volunteer their expertise, this time with an emphasis on financial knowledge and experience. The FAB would review the proposed annual budget, audit, and all financial reports from the treasurer, and highlight to the board any areas of concern. The FAB would also provide input regarding the investment of money and undertaking of debt by the district. Finally, the FIB would provide advice with respect to the community's possible response to contemplated actions of the board or district. Community response is important. These advisory boards would work with you, the school board trustees, and district administrators and personnel to provide expertise you would not otherwise have available to you. We all know there are a multitude of highly intelligent, educated, experienced, and talented people in our county. I'm asking you to invite them to participate in our school district by joining one of these committees. This is a resource we need to tap, and I think a large number of people would be glad to have an opportunity to assist our schools. Your upcoming retreat would be a perfect opportunity to discuss establishing these committees of knowledgeable helpers. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
So that, those are the last sheets I have. Did anyone else bring one anymore?
No, I don't
Does
have
anybody
any
need
others.
to have some comment? Are we done? Okay. Thank you all. Next on the agenda, we lost the whole room. It's because I'm 10 minutes behind. They read up.
Your reputation.
Yeah, they heard. I just want to quick. Item 7, consent agenda. Item 8, consideration of minutes, annual and regular July meetings, July 16th, 2013. Special meeting of the board, July 17th, 2013. B, acceptance of monthly financial report, payment of bills. C, approval of bid recommendation for the purchase of automotive fuel for the 2013-14 school year. Rex Squires, Director of Transportation. D, approval of bus routes, non-transportation zones, authorized backing areas, and safety busing. Also Rex Squires. Item E has been deleted and noted as such. Item F, approval of 2012-2013 year-end emergency drill report. That Lori Kaufman, clerk of the board, can guarantee you that scintillating reading if you really want to know. Essentially, it's reports that the schools have to hand in every year to show what happened when they conducted the drill and if there are ways we can improve. And anyway, Lori decided that maybe she suggested we put it in the consent agenda. Okay, and item G, approval of transfer of $300,000 from unappropriated balance to legal fees within the school plant facilities fund. Mike Chatterton, School District Treasurer. And item H, approval of personnel exiting and entering. And Lori, you'll tell us those?
Yeah, I'll read them to you. Under classified staff, exiting, retirement, all of these 3 people, their retirements are effective 9/1/13. Lynn Haller, special education paraprofessional at Wood River Middle School. Monica Jones, E&L paraprofessional at Wood River High School. And Rebecca Eichhorn, paraprofessional at Haley Elementary. Classified staff recommending for hire is, as earlier amended, Rocio Potland, paraprofessional at Hemingway Elementary. And under certified staff, recommending for hire, Kelsey Atkins, full-time math teacher, grade 6 at Wood River Middle School. Sarah Gilman, full-time special education resource room teacher, grade 6 through 8 at Wood River Middle School. Kathleen O'Brien, full-time art teacher, grades K through 5 at Bellevue Elementary. And Nicole Cahill, full-time dual immersion kindergarten teacher at Bellevue Elementary.
Thank you, Lori. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as written?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Pardon?
I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Catherine?
I have a question for Mike on the approval on G, the approval of transfer. Is that for legal fees for the Lincoln Street crossing?
Yes. And this is to pay, just as an aside, is to pay future legal fees or legal fees that have already been incurred?
Future legal fees. We haven't received the bills for July yet, so.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I'm going to abstain just because I wasn't here.
Okay. Great. Your first at abstaining after starting off, right? Okay, I'd like to, do I hear a vote on accepting the consent agenda as written?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Consent agenda approved. Thank you. Okay, on to item 8. guest presentations. Dwayne Sorensen and his fabulous yearly Chartwell's update. We are incredibly fortunate to have this young man. And the people who work as hard as he does a great job.
Thank you, Paul. I'll introduce myself. There's some new people here. I'm Dwayne Sorensen. We're with Chartwell's, and we run the food service here. The 26th will be my 7th year here, so we're starting our 8th year here, which is great. It's been a wonderful opportunity. I do have 3 students in the district, 2 at the high school this year and 1 at the middle school. We finally got everybody out of the elementaries. So here we go. So this kind of gives with some of the new rules from the federal government, the USDA rules that take place this year. Next screen. Okay, so the new breakfast menu, which is out, I just finished it last week. We do, all the schools offer versus serve, and for breakfast that requires us to offer 4 components. They're changing to all food-based across America, so there's 4 components, and we have to offer a grain every single day with every entree. And half the grains for all the menus, that's breakfast and lunch, have to be whole grain. So if it's rice or pasta or bread, half of all the grains that we serve during the week have to be whole grain. As far as the 4 components, we're offering a fruit, which is mandatory also. We have to offer a fruit every day. They do not have to take it this year for breakfast. At lunch, they do have to take the fruit. Starting next year, they will have to take the fruit for breakfast also now. So we serve a fruit, a grain, and then a meat alternative, and those 3 items. So you can duplicate, so you could have 2 grains a day or 2 fruits, and they can take 3 of the 4, or they can take all 4. So if you have a student that's hungry one morning, they can take all 4 items, and if they're not so hungry, they can choose just 3. And the offer versus serve, why we do that through all schools, is for breakfast and lunch, just to help save money. That way students aren't required to take all these components and then not eat those. For the lunch menu at the elementaries, we're doing 1 hot and 2 cold for the last 2 years. So we switched that to 2 hot and 1 cold. Try to increase our participation. That way we increase, and we were doing a fresh salad and a fresh sandwich every day. It was a nice tossed salad, fresh ingredients, nice sandwich. All the bread, of course, coming from Big Wood bread still. But with the hot entree that we were trying to have as a healthy choice option, we had a lot of students not choose those and just decide to get something else. So we're trying with that 2 hot items that now they're going to have more choices for more type of comfort food for lunch. Instead of, we just don't like that 1 hot entree, now they have a choice of 2. As far as, we still offer vegetarian entrees. There are some days that there are no vegetarian entrees, but for the most part, all days there are. And with offer versus serve for breakfast and lunch, you don't have to choose the meat component or even the vegetarian entree. You could, for lunch, you could take an apple, a milk, and a piece of toast, and that's 3 components. So that's all. That would be a reimbursable meal. So you could see where if they're not very hungry, they could take those 3 items, or they could take all 5, where they're taking, let's say the stir fry with the rice, with the milk, with the fruit. Okay, so they're getting all 5. So as for Woodside this year, again, the 4th year in a row, we've received the fruit and vegetable grant. It's a little over $18,000. And how that program works is every single day at lunchtime between breakfast and lunch, sometime during the school day, we provide a fruit or a vegetable. And what we're trying to do is introduce foods that students usually don't get. So like once a week we'll try something unique. We'll do kumquats or star fruit or something unique that they would not normally try. And that's the purpose of the program. Those aren't necessarily local products, but it is trying to expand children's taste for different foods. For the Nutri item, and I put that in there and they spoke earlier, I'm supporting them, and if they need any help, I'm definitely here to help whatever they need for the programs, if they need to use the kitchen or set up or anything like that. and I'd like to continue to work with them. I agree with the education piece. What the government did here is they put all these USDA rules in last year, which are very complicated, and they didn't really explain to anybody in the United States why they're doing that. And with these nutrition programs, why are you eating whole grain? Why are you eating a fruit every day? So that's what these type of programs do with Nurture Idaho. We still are going to continue to recycle the food waste in the kitchens, and that's going to start up here once we start school. We do have a management change at Bellevue Elementary and Woodrow High School. The manager at the high school and the lead there are moving to Bellevue Elementary, and the manager and lead at Bellevue are moving to the high school. So we think it's a great move, and we're looking forward to that. We have new menu options also for the secondary menus, and we are continuing and always doing promotions trying to get more students to be excited to eat in school. Also this year, the USDA has this yogurt program, and starting in September and October, they're going to offer these flavors of yogurt, and so that'll help the program. We can have those for breakfast and lunch. It is a meat alternative, 4 ounces is a meat, so we can serve that. You could, again, that could be the entree quote. They don't really have that. It's the 5 components, so that could be one of the components. So you could get a yogurt and a piece of toast and apple, the milk, and a vegetable, whatever vegetable it is. So those are 5 components. You choose 3 of the 5, you can take all 5. So I think that's a great program. Only 3 states you can see were awarded that, so I think it's a great program. And this is it's hard to read here, but that's the elementary breakfast menu. Actually, it's a K-12 menu for breakfast. And what we have here is the main entrees. And then we have 4 alternate entrees also, and there's 4 items each day. They can pick 3 of the 4 or all 4. And it gets really complicated, so I'm not going to go into that, but that's how it is. Do you have any questions, comments?
I'm wondering about your yogurt. What's the grams of sugar in those? I noticed they're flavored, which is often sweetened.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't tell you that
You don't know?
offhand, but yeah, we do. I'm not sure even what brand we get to change.
Is
This is the Giovanni.
there monitoring for sugar in the diet to keep it down? Like I noticed for breakfast, assorted cereal, muffin, fruit and grain bar yogurt. I think every one of those has a fair amount of sugar in it.
Right. Well, we need 450 calories for elementary. So to reach the 450 calories, the government is saying right now across the nation it's all component based. So technically we're just saying, okay, the 4 components could be a string cheese, a slice of toast, and a milk. That's a reimbursable meal. But the issue is those 3 items are only 250 calories. So to get up to the 450 calories, we're adding, that's where the main entree comes from, where I have an omelet or French toast or sausage and cheese bagel. That's where we get those added calories in there. But if the student doesn't want to take those, if they just want to take those 3 items and they're not hungry that day, they have that option. So as far as that, the government is not, the sugar is not part of what the government's looking at. Now sodium is, they're going to start reducing sodium this year. And then next year, for the next 10 years, they keep reducing it every year. Then next year, every single grain served in both breakfast and lunch has to be whole grain, every item. So they are pushing those.
Board have any questions? No? Administrators? Just moment, Parker. No? Yes, Parker, do you have a question for?
You mentioned in there recycling kitchen food waste. What does that imply?
In the back of the house, currently right now, if if we chop a head of lettuce and you have that little stem at the bottom, or if you're making something and you have a little bit left over, whatever, any of the food waste at the end of the day, we are collecting that, and then we are putting that, and then the waste pickups pick that. Wynn's composting is taking that up on East Fork, and he's using that. And I think the community schools are doing it. I think the hospitals are doing it. I can't remember that.
Albertsons about.
Yeah, so a lot of companies, a lot of places kind of get on board with that. And we are, from what I understand, trying to get more in front of the house too. So when students go through the line, when they bring their tray back, they can separate those items, separate the cardboard, separate any food they haven't eaten, so forth. And we are working, and it does take time, so we are working if we happen to have a product, let's say we're serving something that comes in a souffle cup, we'll work on that to try to either eliminate, maybe we have to get rid of the whole entree and just do something else, or maybe we can use a paper souffle cup, or maybe eliminate the souffle cup altogether. So, we definitely want to work with the schools on eliminating any type of extra waste that we create. And we do have, there's all washable trays at the elementaries, there's all metalware, so there's no plastic forks in that at all the elementaries. And we're using biodegradable plates at the high school.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dwayne.
Appreciate your efforts in that.
Yeah. Let's go to breakfast in a couple weeks. Okay, next, Heather. This is the Blaine County School District website transition with Tim Rosen.
Hi, everybody. Heather and I are here today to tell you a little bit about our website transition. And I wanted to introduce this topic by telling you a little bit about our old website and the reasons that we were looking to make this transition. We used to have a programmer in-house. We no longer have a programmer in-house. Those guys left. Can you hear? No?
We'll allow it.
So the programmers left. So when they left, it gave us a nice opportunity to go out and take a look at some other things that are out there and to reassess how we want to manage our website. One of the things that we found that a lot of other school districts have moved to hosted tools. And the hosted tools have gotten a lot better. And as they become better, they've also come down in price quite a bit. So those were some of the things that motivated us to come and take a look at some hosting solutions for our websites. In addition to that, when we went out and started to take a look at the tools that were available, instead of simply hosting the website, it also has back-end tools that are consistent with a learning management system or an LMS. So those were the types of things that even with an in-house programmer, we couldn't do on our own. We've started working now with a company called Blackboard Engage. Blackboard Engage is the K through 12 side of the company Blackboard. That's why we used in higher education. And I think that one of the advantages there is that you see some consistency amongst their platform as you prepare kids to use on college. I think one of the most important things to think about with this tool is that with the simplified web design tools that are available, we have now the potential for more people to have the capacity to add content to the website. And the more people that add to this thing, the more valuable the website as a tool itself becomes in the long run. In the old days, if somebody had an update that they needed to make on the website, it generally flowed through one person. Now we're in a position where everybody can add content to their portions of the web page. And I think that was one of those strengths that drew us to this.
So I'm going to give you a sneak preview of the website, but I wanted to sort of set it up for you a little bit ahead of time. I want to begin with a quote from Nora Carr, who is the Chief of Staff of Guilford County Schools in Greensboro, North Carolina. And sorry, John, I almost thank you. She's a frequent contributor to the American School Board Journal, so you may be familiar with her writing and thinking about schools and public schools. But what she says is good things happen for kids when we ramp up communication and marketing. Good communication is associated with higher levels of parental involvement. Parental involvement is correlated with better school attendance, higher student achievement, higher graduation rates, and a host of other positive factors that help students succeed at school and in life. So, under Dr. Barber's leadership, we really don't do anything in this school district that isn't going to contribute to student success. And that's on every single level, from technology to looking at a new website. And we really think that this new website is going to contribute to that significantly. The National School Public Relations Association conducts surveys with parents from time to time. This is a 2011 Communication Accountability Program survey that they conducted. And one of the questions on the survey was, how do parents want to communicate with schools? I know it's a little fuzzy, and I apologize for that. But the first line, in terms of increasing preference, the very top line is email from the district and school. That was the first preference. The second preference was the online parent portal, which is essentially Skyward. Okay? The third preference was district or school e-newsletters or news. And the fourth preference was the district or school websites. And so we've highlighted the red lines that will address this new website and the features that Tim's talking about with the integration with the new website with Skyward, which really makes it much more than a website. It makes it a really useful tool for parents, students, and staff. So we're excited that it addresses 2 of the top 4 preferences for parent communication. We always do things with our target audiences in mind, and those are our parents, students, and staff members. This is a great example of what Tim's talking about with a comparison with the old and new sites. So the old site was hosted on local servers. Did you talk about that? The server? Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, that kind of goes in hand with the programmers being on site. And so not only did we have to pay the programmers to be here and to code things the way that they did, but we also had to host the servers. We had to maintain the servers. So that was extra cost that went into that.
So the old site was hosted on local servers. There was no login. There were a few sole editors. The main one being Ethan Davis, who I'd like to introduce, is the webmaster for the school district and is the main editor of the website. We have web coordinators at each of the schools who are the only other people that are available to update the school pages and the old website. We had an outdated design. It was cluttered with redundant info. There was no searchability, which I know has come up with patrons in the past, that the search function was not working. It was broken and we couldn't fix it. We didn't have Google Analytics, so we weren't able to use metrics, which are standard operating in the communications world, figuring out where your traffic is going and making sure that that's the most visible and available information. So for instance, right now people are looking for school registration information, and we'd be able to see that that's where most of our traffic is going, and we'd be able to make sure that that's very prominent. So we didn't have the ability to use Google Analytics with our current website. No Google search optimization, so we weren't really surfacing in Google searches as well as we should be. There was no translation to other languages, and there was no Skyward interface at all. So the new site that has been selected, the new website, is hosted on Edline servers, which is a significant benefit. We have a login to customize the content, which I'm going to show you the parent view of that. Staff can edit, so there's no waiting or emailing or turnaround. We think that the design is based on modern and current best practices, and if you want, I can show you some of the websites that we looked at to sort of model ours, but I don't want to take up a lot of time if you don't want to look at that. It's always exciting for me to spend time looking at websites, but if other people want to do that. The information lives in one place, so for instance, you would post a schedule once, and you could have it available and viewable in multiple places, but you're not risking duplicating information and maybe getting a date wrong or something like that. So the fact that the information lives in one place is really helpful. It is searchable. We can use Google Analytics. We will have search engine optimization. We have a great translating feature that I will show you. And the best thing is that it interfaces with Skyford. So we'll be excited. Yes?
Question regarding how staff can edit. Does that mean that each teacher could have their own web page and it would be like connected and have that continuity?
Yeah, I'm really
As
excited.
opposed to
show you
right
that.
now, it's just all over the place.
Yeah, I'm really excited to show you that. So a great example of that is not only all over the place, but for instance, if you were going to look for senior projects at the high school, and granted our search button is broken in the first place anyway, but all the senior project information was put onto SchoolWire's, an externally hosted website that it doesn't have any interface with ours. So we can't even find the senior project information unless you know where to look for it. Now we have a quick link to it. But that kind of information got buried really quickly because we didn't have content management systems where everyone could just create their own content. So now we do have that. And I'll get into how we've been training the staff and what the staff response has been, which has been very positive. Go ahead.
And don't forget too, that, I mean, they're in the kind of is the beauty of the way that this thing is tied into Skyward, because with that tie-in, then automatically each teacher has a web page, a profile page that's created for them based on the fact that they're in Skyward as a teacher. Each of their classes have.
Okay. So just before we don't want to forget what our old website looks like. I wish we had a split screen so we could show you old and new at the same time. And
As long as you keep Hannah nosy on them, that's most important.
oh yeah, they were great. They made a great photo for our recent press release on the star ratings. Okay, so basically, the public view isn't going to be the way that I'm showing it to you because it is just in the beta stage right now. So I'm taking you in sort of through the back door. But this is the public view of the website. So that's all you see. So in website design parlance, what you have is the upper fold and the lower fold. And what we've really tried to do is get away from that kind of column-like design approach that the old website had and get to something that's less static and more dynamic. We were really looking for something that feels as energetic as a school feels when you walk into a school building, and a way of really highlighting good news stories. So this is a slowly scrolling feature on the very top header that is designed to support the strategic plan goals. So each time the photo scrolls at the top header, the wording changes to reflect the strategic plan goals. And then this section that is scrolling a little bit quicker will be a rotating news feature. And it is hyperlinked, and I'll demonstrate that for you in a second, to eventually these news stories. And this is still really in design stage, so we don't have them all matched up perfectly yet because Ethan's been playing around with how to do the hyperlinks and really make it work the way that we wanted to. This navigation and site structure at the top, the menu, About Us, Board of Trustees, Departments, Schools, Parents, Students, and Staff Portal, is really the recommended site structure from Edline. They really like to keep things in a consistent format across all of the schools that they work with. And so we basically just went with what they had recommended in that regards. We kept a feature that we liked from our website, which is the quick links, but we wanted to make quick links a quick feature, so we shortened it. And these, because of Google Analytics, will actually have the ability to self-select, and so the ones that people are looking for the most will appear under quick links. Or if we think that people are going to be looking for school registration, we can load that up there as well. So we can make them as relevant to the users as we think that they might be. I'm really excited to talk to you about this calendar, and the best demonstration of the calendar will be when I show you one of the departments. But the calendar is something that I actually have had a lot of parents approach me and ask for, particularly parents at the high school. We did show them a preview of this, and some of them are pretty excited about what this is going to offer, particularly when you get into the parent view of this, when you have your own login, and that calendar will essentially be loaded for your child's information. So homework due dates, if sports were part, on there, you would have sports, you would have absolutely everything on that calendar, and the dates would just pop up from each of those days. So I'll show you an example of that.
You do that for the board too?
Yes, you do have, look at your Board of Trustees section. You want to check it out? Okay, so here we go.
Glad to get that ready.
Yeah,
I mean, as far as the calendar. I think-
yeah, so the count, exactly. So for instance, we haven't developed, of course, everything yet, but on the calendar, you would have all of your special meetings, all of your board meetings, and a little pop-up bar that you'll see when I demonstrate that under another department will show up. So this is why we're looking for current updated board.
Yeah, that's.
But we'll get there.
That's
We'll
really
get
what
there.
I'm thinking.
We're gonna get there. So
Get your picture of this.
yeah, we're excited about. But yeah, so essentially this is the format for each of the departments. So each of the departments essentially, or they call them group pages, gets links on the left, which used to be those big kind of bulky looking buttons that you guys are probably familiar with, and then board news. And so you can have your board news features and sections about what's going on with the board, similarly to the way that the district site looks. So let me show you how the calendar looks. The one that's built out the most at this point is the community campus. So this is Teresa Gregory. She's the content management user for her department page or group page. And here she's put in everything that is going on at the community campus on that calendar. So that shows you how that calendar is going to work.
And you're putting the people that you're going to have someone at each building that is charged with doing a good job of updating and.
Yeah, I mean, we hope that the ease of managing content is going to be so much easier that they are going to feel
Well, they can do it
more
themselves,
inspired
sure.
to do it. Yeah, and so currently we have website coordinators at each building. And so they are responsible for their building, and then departments are responsible for their departments, and then we oversee the more global district kind of pages. So.
What are you thinking about rollout? We were talking last week and you.
Well, we were thinking the day before school starts. What do you think?
Day school.
The day school starts, just to shake things up a little bit. So we're thinking of waiting until mid-October till we have we have been training the staff, and I'll talk about the staff training. But we think that mid-October would give us time to have everything really ironed out as much as possible. We're still going to experience glitches. We've got a lot of users using it. We're going to, we're prepared to deal with little tiny bumps on the road, but we feel like October 14th is a good transition date to give everyone plenty of advance notification that this change is happening. I do have a parent communication plan that I want to share with you at some point, and parents, I think staff are very cognizant of this change, but parents are not, and I really want to focus on reaching out to the parents in every way, shape, and form possible to let them know to expect a new website and to give them an idea of the exciting features that will be available to them with this. So do you guys want to see a parent view? It'll take me just a second to go there, but I'm happy to go there for you. Sure. Sure. Okay. Oh, page, thank you. Ethan, was I forgetting anything? Talk, show them just the department.
You can show the translate.
Oh, okay, I'm happy to show that. Okay,
So does the peanut gallery get to ask any questions?
Paul,
Are you going to have any
Paul, can
questions?
Charlie ask a question?
Are we
If
going
you
to ask
keep
any
it
questions?
concise, Charlie, yes, you may.
That's
Some
impossible.
words.
So, are you going to be able to? I work with a lot of these types of systems in my professional associations and the education groups that I work with, and so I worry the whole beauty of letting people put content in. You still need editors.
There's still editors.
People can't spell and write. I don't care what their title is. And the second part is, are you going to be able to push the parents, you know, if assignments are late or grades are low, and as you move skyward forward as part of this?
Okay, so that was a two-part question. So the way I understand it is, we need editors, and I agree with you. Maybe I could take you saying that and I could send it out to all the staff, because we do need editors, and I agree with you. We have, as I said, website coordinators at each of the buildings. They do a lot, as most of you know. Some of them are actual teachers, some of them are the tech teachers in each of the buildings. So being the website coordinator is one small part of their job. I spot check things, and that's, I think, part of my job is to go in and try to help people as much as possible. I don't have a really good answer for that, but I'm more than happy to keep exploring better answers for how we proof things and how we make sure things are accurate without just continually stressing it as much as we can.
Well, you have to have, I'm a firm believer, I mean, I've implemented a lot of these similar types of systems. You have to have people able to put content, but you still have to have someone review and release.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because, I mean, font sizes are too small, and there's a lot of this aesthetic and design things, but if you're misspelling and aren't writing things well, you know, it doesn't look good.
I agree with you. Thank you for bringing that up. We do also have a draft of website guidelines that the administrative council will take a look at and tech will take a look at, and then it will kind of go from there. And that is one way of trying to communicate expectations with the various content users too. So, okay, so here we are at Haley Elementary, home of the Comets, or comics, as my kindergartner who went there used to call them, because you couldn't get what a comic was, I guess. This is Haley Elementary site, so you can see the similarity with the district site and Haley Elementary with the scrolling news features and the kind of upper fold and lower fold pieces here. And we call these the big three. So we have, actually, the calendar will kind of, I think we're going to have the calendar. Yeah, it's, they'll have a way to kind of highlight information down here, and then the calendar will live up here just a teensy bit. So that's an example of a school site, and the design's very similar, the look and feel of it are very similar to the district sites. And then you want to show us what parent view would look like?
Essentially, when each person logs in,
sure, yeah.
The parents and the students will have their own login information. And when they log in, then they will have their own customized content on the website that only they view. So all that information lives under this menu right here, that's the My Headline menu, which it doesn't exist when the public is viewing the site. So as a parent, we picked Steve Anderson here. He'd go under, you wouldn't see Heather's name here, it would just be Steve. And you would go down and you would see his kid listed here. And then all the classes that that child is enrolled in. And so in this case, there's 4 different classes. And if they just went down to Mrs. Resco's class, second grade, the parent could click on it. And then the teacher is given their own space to add homework and different links that they think are important. They also have their own ability to make a news feed similar to the other portions of the site to convey information to parents and all kinds of things like that. They would also be able to look at a specialized calendar for their kids' activities. So it would be like if they had soccer, if they were involved in soccer or something like that, they could scroll down into the My Headline menu, go down to their student, and soccer would show up on here, and they could view all when the soccer tournament was going to be on their own special calendar. So yeah, it's very customized to the parent. It makes it a lot easier for the parent to just, and if they had multiple students in different schools, they would all be listed under their name right there. And they could see their calendar, when all their homework's due, when they have soccer practice, when the field trips are on their own customized content.
But this goes back to what Tim says really about, the tool is going to be only as valuable as the number of people who are providing content. And so we expect a transition phase, particularly at the secondary level, where at this point, 85% of the staff have received training. We started the training last October at Techtoberfest. But there will be teachers that have really gone the distance with what they are putting on their website, and others who won't have as much information. And we hope that those teachers eventually see the value in it and start to grow in terms of the time that they put into it. The great thing about the teacher websites is that it really acts like a cloud-based filing system for them. So once they put that homework assignment into their file locker, they don't ever have to really do anything with it again. And once they attach a date to it, it appears on their calendar for their class and for their website. So we hope that those kinds of things will add a lot of value to the staff. Do you guys have any questions?
I just got one quick as an example. You're talking about this customized calendar for your kid. It shows all the things. Does it require each individual teacher, for instance, the men's soccer coach is not really good at sending out an email. He uses Catherine directly and she takes care of it. But would he be required to enter in the entire season's information? How else is going to get there if he doesn't put in what practices, when games are, and so on?
Yeah, so I guess my
And that's
answer,
going to rely on hundreds of people putting in the right information.
Yeah, and my answer is I'm a big fan of the soccer coach as well, and he's a wonderful person, but it is essentially their job to do that. And an example of that is Teresa Gregory, as the coordinator for the community campus, has loaded all of her dates through 2014.
At least to do it too.
Well, then.
And all of the other coaches and teachers.
Yeah, it is dependent on the user putting the information in. Yeah.
Parental pressure.
If we could figure out another way to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've talked to the athletic director at the high school to say, how about just an afternoon, you get different coaches in together, you finalize schedules, and you just pound it out.
Yeah. Well, they already know their schedule.
Right.
Yeah.
You were going to show us the foreign language.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. Okay, so that is here, and it is Google Translate. And there you go.
Wow.
So, we understand, I'm not a linguist, it's probably not going to be the most perfect, but Google, of course, is one of the largest companies in the world. They're going to be constantly updating their mechanisms to do this kind of thing, and the fact that it's already connected, and that, as Tim was saying, we're working with Edline via Blackboard, one of the largest companies in the country. We know that we're going to get whatever's the most current in terms of accuracy and availability with translation. So we're really excited about that. Thank you for reminding me. Okay, so just quick conclusion, just to tell you about the staff training. So we have been conducting staff training since October with the Techtoberfest. And we also have been in buildings twice for 2 4-hour periods. And that's where we reached about 85% of the staff. We will continue to provide staff training. We have 2 more sessions coming up in the next 2 weeks for both beginning and more intermediate users. We will be at Techtoberfest again offering help sessions for people, kind of like what Ethan's talking about, just getting all the coaches to come in at one time and get the work done. And then there's a during day-to-day, we are going to be introducing this to the parapros and familiarizing them with the website as well. And that's part of an overall website rollout plan that I can show you. That's a communication plan. We have had great staff feedback so far, and these are a few staff members who have wanted to kind of contribute their thoughts about the value of the new website. And I'll just read these really quickly to you since they're too small to read. Brian Sturgis at Wood River Middle School said, quote, "I'm excited to have a new tool in which to communicate with students and parents. The new Edline website allows for flexibility and quick changes to facilitate information dissemination. I can have all of my links, letters, and calendars in one convenient place, as well as some fantastic photos of his Alaska grizzly bear trips. And then we have a link to his website. Bing Parkinson at Silver Creek High School said, "Developing our websites has been a challenge made much easier by the training provided by Ethan Davis. He has helped us understand all the areas within our websites and has provided one-on-one assistance when needed. He understands website development and is so willing to help us with whatever questions or problems that we might have with our own websites." Edith Lopez at Woodside said, "I think that our teacher pages will support, communicate, and connect school and home, and it will enable us to build more stages for our kids to express themselves using different resources to support learning." So that's just some of the staff feedback that we've received so far.
That kind of leads me to the thought that there's a lot of teachers, particularly elementary, when they're working with no prep times and so on, there's a lot of interventions, a lot of data entry. I mean, if all of a sudden you've got, 4 IEP kids and 3 mileposts, you're slammed with just entering things in. Is this going to add a significant amount to the time that they have to spend doing data entry? Because for some teachers, it's going to be data entry.
Well, it can be as elaborate or as simple as they want.
Okay.
What we've asked every staff person to do at this point is to at least create their profile, because there will be a staff directory on the new website, and every single staff person will have a name, and you'll be able to click through to their website. So to at least see the basics of where they teach, what they teach, a little biographical kind of information is very helpful. I do want to kind of go back to what Nora Carr says about parent involvement, and parent involvement is critical to student success. And I know teachers know that, and I think that the website, because we know that this addresses 2 of the top 4 communication preferences for parents, it's really a wonderful opportunity to connect with parents. And all of our digital communication right now drives people back to the website. Everything in the ECSD Weekly Update drives people back to the website. All of our Facebook drives people back to the website. Eventually more of our social media will do that. So we're doing everything we can right now to make the website really the home of communication.
And don't forget too, the tool is really straightforward. If you can sit and type in on your document, Word.
You can enter pictures of the party you had yesterday, and you don't spend half an hour doing it. You put them below.
And if it just takes a few minutes to tap on a few thoughts about the things that we did today to bring in.
No, I would guess that there's probably a lot of use that will use that.
I think people are pretty excited about it, and I think it will grow in time, and I think that the tech department has done a great job in helping us find a tool that is going to have legs for many years to come.
This is going to be a great opportunity, and I really appreciate you thinking ahead and seeing how we're going to not only educate staff, but educate parents as well on the possibilities, because really the success of it is going to lie with the parents and how they use that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you want to see that I have just hard copies of the communication plan, the rollout plan? Do you want me to give those to you, or do you prefer a digital? Do you want me to email the digital copy?
I'd love a hard, you have a hard copy with you?
Yeah.
I'd love a hard copy.
Okay.
Just to reiterate to the board, this has been almost a 3-year process. It's been very well vetted, as you can see. So there was a lot of work to get to this point, and we started training teachers a year ago. So we're trying to make sure that we roll it out carefully and fully vet it all the way through the entire process. So these guys have done a huge amount of work. And back to what Tim said earlier, before our web page was written by custom code. So it was written by a specific programmer who wrote it in his own code. And when he left the district and things break, we don't know the code. So it was time to look for something else.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Tim.
This is just a draft.
Superintendent's discussion with the board. Star ratings, anything new to report, Catherine?
Well, I wanted to talk to you briefly. I'm not going to take very much time about, I'm going to try to be brief about a very complicated topic. And as you all know, the star ratings for this year have been rolled out. We went through an appeal window where we actually did do some appealing. I guess what I really want to talk to you about is how this thing has changed from prescriptive to non-prescriptive for our children. So when Idaho decided to have a standardized test, the ISAT, they contracted with a company out of Portland called NWEA, Northwest Educational Association. They actually were very advanced in their educational thinking, because this is what happened. When a child got a certain score, we call it a RIT score, actually named after a guy who invented this continuum, they would get a certain score. If that score was above proficient, advanced, proficient, basic, or below basic, any of those, oh yeah, that's right, let's turn it on. If it was any of those, what you had the ability to do was go to a separate document called the Learning Continuum. And what the Learning Continuum did was it drilled down into those scores, and it said if your child is scoring here, let's just say it's a basic score, it disaggregated all the different areas. Like in math there were 7, and you could actually see how they were performing in the different areas. If they were performing low in one area, then it prescribed interventions through the Learning Continuum. So if you got this score in the 4th grade, you're lagging your peers by a year and a half, and if it's in this one of these categories, you can go over here and you have a notebook and you can say, okay, we've really got to work on adding fractions, for example, because this child is deficit in that. When a different administration came in, they left that vendor and they went to another one called DRC, and they changed the test. The test at that point in time came back with no learning continuum at all. But what we still were able to do was we could look at achievement. And, you know, our district, we've written the Freedom of Information to the state. We got all of the state's data scrubbed of names so that we could have some relevance when we looked at our students compared to other districts. When the state started planning for the new assessment, which is not going to be, which is the SBAC, so that's the Smarter Balance Consortium. It's a consortium of states that are working on the Common Core, what they're calling the Idaho Core in Idaho. When they started doing that, and they started to redesign the way that they would ask questions to kids, the way that they would stimulate thinking, what they heard from a lot of superintendents was, what we really need is a growth model. So we can look at kids independently of each other. We can look at where they're at. We can look at how much growth do they need to become proficient, how much growth do they need to become advanced, and we operate that way. With the new star ratings, and the star ratings actually don't live under the State Department, they actually live under a waiver to the federal Education Department. So the state of Idaho has written a waiver to escape AYP, which is No Child Left Behind, accountability, which the ISAT was reflective of. That was a long sentence. What happened when they wrote the waiver, and they wrote it so that we could actually use growth. So this is what all the superintendents did. Hallelujah, it's about time. So now they've rolled out the 5-star ratings, and they have incorporated actually 2 growth measures, but the problem is, it was written by statisticians, not by educators, and I have yet to find a superintendent, and I've already been through our regions where there's 32 of us, that can understand the new growth system well enough to tell their principals and teachers how to use it prescriptively. So here's what that means. Let's look at it for a minute. And then I've got my data partner, data assessment and testing partner with me. And I've got him here for a reason. It depends on how deep you want to go into this thing, right? Because it is really complicated. So the state assessment is moving to the SBAC. That's a common assessment across, I believe, 23 states. The other assessment, there's another Common Core assessment group. They're actually starting to interact, and I don't think the test will be much different. The calculations for the accountability have changed markedly. In the past, we had one accountability measure, and that was achievement of our students. And so here's what you could do. You could look at how our students achieved in any category, special ed, special ed, free and reduced, which is socioeconomic status. You could look at any of the subcategories, what gender they were, what race they were, and each one of those got scores, and you could start to look at how are you performing in all these various categories. Go ahead. Now, the new accountability measures, growth is taken into account. And here's how it's taken into account. They are still weighting achievement, the overall achievement of the school, but now they've assigned a weight to that, which is 1/4 of the total number of points that you're going to receive towards your star rating. Growth to achievement, and this is where it gets a little sticky. So I'm going to try to explain it, Jerry, and if I don't do it right, you can kick me. Because it is complicated. So let me just tell you what growth to achievement, and the problem with it is it's weighted half of your score. Growth to achievement is this. And I'm going to kind of use my hands here. There's a continuum of possible scores for every student in Idaho. They're called grit scores. So you can land at 215, you can land at 235, you can land at 242. What they've done is for that grade level, the way that Jerry explained to me, they take all the data, they put it in the black box, and then something comes out. This is what growth to achievement actually means. They take every student independently of every other student, and on the continuum, they have a band of kids that score, for instance, 215. They then take, now those kids might be in our schools, they might be up in Ponderay, they might be down in Twin, they might be in Marcy, we don't know, and we don't know who the kids are. But what happens is when they start to peg your score for this, they peg those scores, they use the median number, and so the growth to achievement is the median number of every one of those bands for our kids, where they scored compared to all the other kids that started in that band. Now here's the problem. Here's the problem with that. We cannot look at it prescriptively because we cannot differentiate where we are in deficit and where we are doing great. So for an example, are we giving our advanced kids more or less than every other advanced kid in Idaho? So we can look at that by a score, but we don't know if we are or not, because you can't differentiate the score that you get with any other particular score. It's just this kind of big pot of kids. So we can't really say, we can't look at that growth to achievement score and it doesn't tell us, are you doing well in special education or are you doing poorly relative to everyone else? What we always say is the money should follow need, but this doesn't tell us where the actual need is. It's very strange. It was developed, it's called the Colorado model. It was not developed by educators, it was developed by statisticians. So here's what we have now. It is an accountability, but it's not prescriptive. It doesn't help us understand where we need to focus on kids. There's one more group, and then I'll answer your question.
Okay.
There's one more group, which is 25%, and that is at-risk groups. In the past, the way the ISAP worked, and it was the right thing to do, if you had under 32 kids in any single category, so if your school had less than 32 special education kids, or less than 32 language LEP kids, or less than 32 free and reduced kids, it did not count. Because if you have less than that, you could actually go and identify those kids, right? But if the pool's big enough, you can't identify them. That made the playing field unlevel across Idaho because most districts are rural, and if you're rural, R-U-R-A-L, rural, if you're rural, you don't have to account for those kids, and if you have any category that had enough kids, you got a score, and that's the only score you got, so you were a 5-star school. Or not, they weren't using stars then, they were using failing or not failing. So here's what they did. They took all those those subcategories, and they decided that that's what's keeping the playing field uneven, so they combined them all together into a super category, a super group category. So now, and they lowered the number to 20. So now, in your school, if you have 20 total, special ed, free and reduced, LEP, any of that, and most schools, not all, because we have actually a school that doesn't have that number. Most schools will now be accountable for it. The problem is the same as the growth to achievement. We can't differentiate which kids, compared to their peers, are growing faster or slower because we never get to see the peer score. We only see a number, a band. And they won't even really tell you if this kid's band, if this student's outperformed their peers or underperformed. We can't find that out. So now we're kind of scratching our heads saying, well, is it really a growth model if we can't see the individual growth or lack of it for students? I've never seen anything like it. My friend here works closely with the State Department. As a matter of fact, in all the districts in Idaho, this is the gentleman they use to kind of vet, will this theory translate into a practice that we can use? He's worked with it. This is what we found out. They don't understand it either.
Do they not want you to be able to see that because they don't want you to teach to the test?
No.
Any
Well,
theories?
I'll tell you what it is. I know what it is. They have lost sight of what these things should be for, which is formative growth, right? In favor of the accountability to get out of AYP. So they wrote this thing. They wrote this way we're living under to try to get out from the failing school things. But I will just be honest with you. The old AYP at this point in time looks so much better, and I'll tell you why. Because superintendents and principals had actually dismissed the fact that if you miss one category, you're a failing school. So they marginalized that. And we can see the scores relative to others, so we can pinpoint which kids we're going to work on. And I want to say it the right way. When politics enters education, you end up with things that are not usable for that classroom teacher. That's sad. Because it's all really about, are we improving or are we just accounting for it? Those are two different things. We're accounting for it or we're actually setting out to improve scores. So the high school is just a little bit different. If you look at that, there's one additional category, and that's college and career readiness. That goes to number of AP classes. It's actually not number of classes, it's participation.
But with the AP classes, it's a combination of participation and being successful passing those classes.
Right.
There's a big matrix that they use.
So what I'm going to do now is I want to go ahead and show you our schools quickly. And I wanted you to get this. Look at it. Call me over this next month, with any questions you have. And I have no problem coming back and trying to revisit it after you guys, have some time to kind of call us or come in here or call the State Department or whatever. Now, it's pretty interesting. Next Wednesday, I actually see Mr. Moon down in Twin Falls at our superintendent's monthly meeting. I'm taking Jerry with me because they've asked me to try to explain this to the superintendents. Now think about that. Think about that. They've given us something that we are living under, and we have to have a statistician come in to explain it to superintendents. Very sad.
So this is all relative to the STAR rating system, and it's taking that ISAT data and applying it under these measures you're describing. But we still have the ISAT data the way we used to in the query on the state website.
Well,
showing the subgroups and the percentile equivalencies and those sorts of data by school, correct?
Because that database is 4,200 pages. You know that, right?
Yeah, I've looked at it.
PDFs, so you can't manipulate them.
Right.
So what we did, instead of trying to go through, actually there are two.
Well, there's Excel ones too. You can download.
I don't think there are.
Anyway,
what we did to get around that, so we can actually look at it, was we wrote a freedom of information for the data from the state. They've been giving it to us. Now, they haven't given it to us now, and they're scratching their heads about whether they're going to or not.
Okay. Well, they have on their website the PDF and Excel format of this information by district, by state, and by school. So that data still exists so that you can go in and look at grade within a school or just a school or grade across the board.
That's only worth 25%
Right.
or 20%. And the problem with that is, so just so you know, problem with that is our achievement looks fine.
Yeah.
But every kid in our system that has to grow equal to that kid where they started in our elementaries, we are not doing fine.
Right. I understand your correlation to the star rating and how that creates a false low score potentially, but the data still exists for schools, administrators, teachers to be able to look at it, to compare individual classroom building achievement, yes? And district achievement?
Well, there's two things.
They're just not in the same pool.
One is that their data does not go down to the classroom level, and we've
This goes to building level.
It goes to the building level. But the other thing is that they have certain categories, whereas we interrelate those categories when we've had the individual student data. So for example, we have looked at separating students on free and reduced lunch. Well, some of those are also English language learners.
Right.
So how
It's not as
do those
manipulatable.
things pull apart? And one of the things we found is that by and large, our students on free and reduced lunch who are not English language learners or in special education do just about as well as any of the other students. And so that helps us to identify clearly then that the issue isn't the fact that they're economically deprived. The problem is these other educational factors. So then we know which factors, and the way they present the data doesn't go to that depth.
Okay.
One additional kind of wrench in the spokes is we are changing. We're doing a field test this year of the SBAC. So we are not going to have any ISAT data from now on, except for a very small number of kids that took it as 10th graders and didn't pass it and still need it as 11th and 12th graders. So what they're going to do, the resolution they've come up with is whatever you ended up with your star rating this year, you have it for 2 years. Now, I guess that could be positive or it could be negative, but it's really difficult because now you're going to have some schools that are working very hard to get out of the cellar. They actually, like we had one last year, we had a 2-star school that made it to 3 stars. Now, if we have a 2-star school this year, if they work hard enough to get to 3-star, they're not going to be accounted for. They're still going to be a 2-star school. On the other side, our 5-star schools are going to be 5 stars for 2 years, and I just want you to know that's a good thing and a bad thing because we don't want you can never be complacent or you won't be 5 stars 2 years in a row. So, I don't want people to start having the sense of, oh, we got nothing to worry about, we're 5-star for 2 years. It isn't really work that way. And we still are going to have to do school improvement plans.
Is the star system going to continue under the SBAC?
Yes. It was designed for the SBAC.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's go on quickly and look at this thing. These are the points that you have to reach, and they're through those 3 categories. Now, the points don't always correlate to the categories because they're percentage. The categories are percentages, and these are actual numbers. So if you're going to be a 5-star school, you've got to get 83 points and down. Okay. Wood River High School is a 5-star school, up from 3 stars last year. I do want you to know, and I think you do know, Wood River High School had the number of points for 5 stars last year. They were reduced by 2 full stars because you have to test 95% of your kids, and they did not test one of the special ed kids. Now I want you to know, teachers are sensitive. They're beautiful when it comes to your kids, and it's very difficult for some teachers to take kids down and stick them in front of a test that they're not going to be able to perform on. That's what happened at Wood River High School. Now I just will tell you, this year we put them in front of the computer because it's not about the score they get, it's about whether or not they do this on the test. So they are 5 stars. We're very happy about that. In the achievement category, they were 17 out of 20 possible points. Now remember that, however, is, then you have to put the percentage around that. The achievement to growth, 22 out of 30. The achievement to growth of the subcategories, which really you can classify as the at-risk categories, 15 out of a possible 20. And I think they got 84 points out of 80. You needed 83. Did they get 84 or 85?
85.
85? Yeah. So they're in there, but they're not way in there, so we have to pay attention to that. Then the 4th category for high schools is the post-secondary, they call college and career readiness. We actually got 30 out of 30 possible points. We got 10. Now that doesn't add up to 30, so you have to take it and put it into a percentage. But there were 10 points possible for the graduation rate. We got the 10. There were 5 points possible for advanced opportunities, which would be AP, dual credit, IB, and there are 5 points possible for college entrance placement, which are the college entrance exam by school, and we got 5 points out of that. So very good for Wood River High School. We've got continue to get better. Silver Creek also got a 5-star rating, but this looks a lot like what used to happen in very small schools. If you'll see the little mark that I put on there, means they did not have enough students to, you could identify the students, because now we're talking about 10, remember, we can only use the data from the past, and the ISAT, even though the SBAC will be an 11th grade test, the ISAT was a 10th grade test. So at Silver Creek, there weren't enough kids in the 10th grade to get over the threshold of 20, is it now, Jerry? 20, what's the threshold now? Because they changed it for reporting.
I believe that they have to have 24.
24. They didn't have that. They didn't have enough for the achievement to grow number of students. What they did get was they got 100 out of 100 in post-secondary, but unfortunately, they only got 10 out of 10 for the graduation rate. Now, this is interesting because last year they made it with 100% on advanced opportunities. So Jerry and I are actually getting some work into the State Department to kind of figure that out, because they still took all the concurrent credit from Jill and Bing that they'd taken the year before, but we didn't get it counted this year, so I don't know why. Cary School is a 4-star school, 2nd year in a row. I will say this about Cary School as we started to look at it. On the test, on the achievement part of that, there were 4 students at Cary School in different grades that missed proficiency by 1 question on the test, and any one of those would have pushed Cary to a 5-star school. It's one of my problems with the grading system. Is it really 1 question for 1 kid on a test that changes what your school is? Now, that's just hard for me to swallow, but I guess they've picked some way to account for it. This is it. 13 out of the 20 on achievement, 22 out of the 30 on achievement to growth, 15 out of 20 on achievement to growth of subgroups, and then the post-secondary got all their points, but did not have enough students that took the college entrance placement exam to count. So John, good job. I feel bad because one of those kids, 1 point, and you are, looking like Wood River.
We're glad to be 4.
And this is the 2nd year in a row. I think that's fantastic.
It's a lot better than 1.
You bet it is. Wood River Middle Schools, also 4-star. They were 4-star last year. 20 out of 25 for the achievement, 40 out of 50 for achievement to growth, and achievement to growth of subcategories, 20 out of 25. Hemingway is a 3-star this year. They were down from 4 stars last year. Their achievement is 18 of 25. Their achievement to growth is 30 of 50. So there's an area that we need to work on. Here's the problem. We don't know which kids inside of achievement to growth to look at, because there's a whole school full of them. But we only got 30 out of 50 points.
So are you able to tell like what area, whether it's math,
Yep.
English,
We can see
science?
math and English. We can see math and language usage. We can see math, using the old math, reading, and language usage. We can see that category. Now in the future, there's not going to be reading, it's language usage and math, but we can't differentiate inside of it. So we could say, here's what I think you could say. You could look at it, you could determine how many points you got in math, but you could not prescribe which kids were low compared to their peers in growth. That's the problem with this thing. It's compared to all the peers in Idaho. How much did the peers in Idaho grow that started at the same grit band? We need something more than that. And then the achievement of growth to the subgroups were 13 out of 25. Now there's an area right there we have to work on at Hemingway. They got half of the points for their special groups in growth. I guess the way that you can think about that is on a continuum, and there were half the schools had better growth and half the schools had worse growth. That's probably for the resource we have, the number of teachers we have, the number of parents we have, that's not going to fly very well here.
So that's a little easier to figure out.
Yeah, and the thing is, Catherine, there's actually a regression formula, and so when I looked at that, I said it looks like about half. Actually, on the continuum, I think we actually looked at it was in the 40s somewhere, wasn't it?
Yes.
So it's close. I mean, I'm just trying to get it so you guys can kind of get an estimation.
The subgroups one will be an easier one to look at what groups need to be.
Well, kind of, except they've combined all the groups together. So when you think about combining every subgroup together, it really creates a pretty big pool of kids that we still can't peel back.
Well, you still could go to the raw data for Hemingway and look at
we
grade
will-
level.
No, we will do that. We
Yeah,
will do that.
and like find who didn't perform well. That's not going to tell you where they were in the band and what their peers did, but it would still show you that these kids did worse and we need to work on that in this area by grade or.
Yeah, we can do it this year because we still have ISAC down.
Right.
We can't do it next year though.
Right.
So,
And they do the subgroups according to proportion of how big they are. I'm sure they would have to do that. But as far as like if you have only a few, I don't know, special needs or whatever, only a few of them, that doesn't count the same as numbers of group that's much larger. It
No.
would be proportional.
it is.
No.
No, they're all together and
They're all together. They're all put together.
Well, they don't deal with,
They don't break it down.
Before.
They put them all together.
You don't wait
They're
till-
equal weighting in that.
Yeah, they
How
are.
big the big.
LEP is equal to special ed, which is equal to any other population. It's terrible. I'm just telling you, it's not only weird, it's terrible.
If all of your students were in an at-risk subgroup, then those numbers would just be equal. But it could be, you could have 200 students in the total population, but just 20 in the subgroup, and they would be treated just as significant
See,
as if you had
statisticians
50.
did it. I'm really surprised.
Yeah, I mean, they do a lot of stretching.
Very weird.
Well, like I said, when it becomes political, which a waiver to the AYP is political, our State Department is political, like most state departments. Problem is, they start doing adult stuff, not kid stuff.
I wasn't going to ask that question because I thought the answer was so obvious the other way.
No dumb questions.
Okay, Haiti is a 3-star school down from 4 stars. The problem with this one is they actually got 2 stars the first time. And what happened around the state was some people called the State Department, and there were a number of schools that got a proportion of one of those 3 scores had a decimal point to it. So the state reconsiders, and they round, if you hit 0.5, they round it up. So Haley got rounded up. But they actually only made 3 stars by 1/10 of a point. We have some work to do at Haley Elementary. And the problem is, we have high achievement there, relatively high achievement, but when you look at achievement up to growth of the subgroups, the at-risk groups, that's the lowest in our district. So the kids who are in special categories are not growing as much as their peers around the state are even close to it. So here's what just so the board knows, this is what we've done. We've already got meetings set up for the superintendent's cabinet to meet with each principal as soon as school gets going for several hours. We're going to go over their areas. We're going to incorporate the work that we do with them into their school improvement planning, and we're going to get them focused as much as we can. Jerry will do the work, Kathy, that you were talking about. Locally, us, he'll do that in the meantime. We'll sit down with him, and this is what our principals will be supervised, monitored, and evaluated on. Part of it.
Right.
So, okay. Bellevue Elementary, congratulations, Angie. Angie was a 2-star last year in the first year where we had no idea what was going to happen, and she worked very hard this year. Their school is up to a 3-star rating, and as you can see, I mean, they're actually, you'd have to look at the prior stuff, but they actually have really great growth. So again, we have a new principal there. We'll work with her. They got 12 out of 25 possible points in the achievement to growth of subgroups, and that's 25% of how you look at this. So I want you guys to think about this. You could actually have the highest achieving school in Idaho. You could. Like, remember how I used to do the data and I would actually rank us 1 through 31 in the district? You could actually have the highest achieving school in Idaho and be a 2 or 3-star school because your kids, your high kids were not growing as fast as the other high kids in the state, right? So you have to kind of scratch your head about that, right? So let's just take it that has high achievement on the high end, 92% or 94%, but they are still in some trouble here under this formula because it's every kid. Now here's the problem, we don't know which every kid. So you have to say it's every kid in the school, we have to make them grow more. That really dilutes your efforts, right? I mean, what we really want is not a shotgun, we want a laser pointer on the kids that need the most help in any of those bands.
Is that where you get into where you have the high achieving kids that are at the ceiling and then
No.
They go from perfect score and then they miss 2 questions the next year and now their score
Not
drops?
to this, because they're competing against the other kids who are 100 across the state.
Okay.
Now, I will tell you this, and we have actually had this happen to John's son.
Yeah,
John's son 2
bounces
years ago
at the top.
got 100% on the math.
Yeah.
Next year, he missed 1 question.
Yeah.
So, but here's the issue. If his peers didn't miss any,
Yeah.
he actually regressed.
Sure.
If, however, his peers who got 100 got a 98, he fell but actually grew.
Yeah,
Because it's all in relation to the rest of the kids. That's a little funky,
yeah.
right?
And
Okay.
you're still talking at the 97, yeah, upper
Any-
90, yeah.
This thing happens for every single.
It's every
you think
single
of it
band.
As a percentile,
Yeah.
every single percentile this happens to.
Okay.
I just want to make one comment. I think
Yeah.
we're moving on pretty quick, but the danger here is teaching to the test. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, we can't teach to the test because the teachers can't see the USBAC test. So they can't do that. Now, but I will just tell you, teaching to the test, really great teachers don't teach to the test, but here's what they don't do. They don't put blinders on when you start driving the car either. So they know what their kids are supposed to be doing, and the result of that is the summative test. If you don't know where your kids are supposed to go, that's a problem. Now, I don't think most teachers actually teach to the test. That's pretty insulting. Because here's what that means. I don't really care about the global knowledge I'm giving this kid. I only care if he passes the test. Now, big cities, Atlanta, there's a number of cities that got to get in trouble for that. That wouldn't be our approach. Now, I can't speak for every teacher individually, but I think most of our teachers have the right idea about a whole child education, and that's not what they're trying to do. So the State Department might look at it that way because they're suspicious of everybody. Okay. Woodside is down to 2-star rating from 3 last year. 13 out of 25 in achievement, so that's an issue for us. Now, that is our most, as you all know, the most challenged population by far. And most of the kids that are categorical kids at Woodside are multi-categorical kids. So they are free and reduced, Hispanic, LEP particularly. So the achievement, that actually didn't surprise me. What kind of surprised me more is the achievement to growth, because they've been working on growth so much at Woodside this year and last, and they still hit the middle of the growth for achievement. So we've got work to do there. The growth for achievement of the subgroups, and just remember this, almost every kid there is very low. We've got to go to work. So that's where we are there. So now I just want to say, we'll do what we did. If you guys have questions, call me, call Jerry. I mean, it doesn't matter who you call. If you call me and I can't answer, I'm just going to refer you to Jerry. But if you have any other questions right now that are a little deeper than I've talked about, Jerry's here right now. He can answer them for you. I think.
I have to think about it for a little bit.
Well, that's kind of why I thought we'd set it up just for presentation this time, and then let you guys work on it from As a matter of fact, we may just put it on as a marker in next agenda, just in case we can revisit and answer any questions that you may have in the meantime.
Can I ask if, maybe have a question? I'm thinking this is a big deal.
Any staff have a question?
We'll actually work, we know our retreat starts tomorrow, so we'll actually work on 5-star tomorrow. We'll help our principals kind of start to understand this is what you're up against.
I just had one quick question, if you don't mind, pointing to the audience. How does the star rating affect your funding?
How does it what?
How does it affect your funding?
Doesn't affect our funding.
Do you need to actually pay attention to it?
What?
Do we have,
Do
do
you
we
need to
care?
actually pay attention to it?
I was going to ask that question.
Just so you know, I think every school has to pay attention to it because there's media, there are people that get the wrong impression or the right impression, and I think what we have to do is be clear about what they mean, what it means. Now, are we hanging our hat on it? Absolutely not. And we haven't hung our hat even on the ISAP because when we have a whole child education, we think we should. If your mantra is education of the whole child, that better mean it generalizes to higher academic success. Not just we do the whole child as an excuse, don't have high academic, because they're supposed to generalize, just like a new language does, just like music does.
But I guess my point is that AYP, this gets around AYP, and AYP was connected to funding, so my question.
It wasn't.
Oh, it wasn't?
No. We are funded by average daily attendance, which means how many days a year a kid goes to school, 90%, 95%.
But I thought there was a failing school, if it didn't make AYP, then it would be labeled a failing school, and if it wasn't a failing school, then wasn't funding bad.
Matter of fact, just so you know, a few years back, if you were a parent school, you got more funding, not less, which is actually the right thing to do. Funding should follow need.
All right, thank you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though, if you're a one or two star school, a school improvement plan is required to be turned into the state.
Yeah, actually,
we actually do it for all schools, whether they're a 2 or a 5.
It's continuous improvement. All of our schools need to have continuous improvement because it's a look ahead. What's our path and where are we going? What we did, for instance, the high school, last year was 3-star. They had 5-star points. That's when we decided every school does it. So last year, for the first time ever, the middle school did a school improvement plan. I think it should be called a continuous improvement plan, not just a school improvement plan, because that's our goal, to continuously improve. 2-star has to do it. As a matter of fact, there are some other factors, we didn't bring them in tonight, they're called AMOs, and they're benchmarks that schools are trying to meet. If you didn't meet them, you have to do a SMART goal, school improvement plan, which is not a full-blown, we already do them. None of our schools got them all, so they're all going to do it. But that's just the way that we should interact with our principals, so that we're talking about how do we make it better. The 2-star and the 3-star both, Bellevue has to, because it takes 2 years to get out, have to submit full school improvement plans to the State Department.
Thank you. Heather, we're ready to move on. Angie Martinez, curriculum report. Kind of got a long title now.
Yes, it is, with lots of things to do. So my job tonight is to give you a brief overview of where we are with implementing Common Core standards, also known as Idaho Core. I want to thank Dr. Barber. He's actually foreshadowed a few of my topics for tonight, so hopefully I can move quickly through the content. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the shift to the core, to get everybody on the new members of the board up to date. Revisit what our district has done to this point and what this year looks like, because we're going to zero in on curriculum, instruction, and learning. There are implications what's going to be happening in the classrooms this year with Idaho Core. So with that, give you a quick overview. There are 2 strands to the core standards, the English language arts, and you need to think about that through across grade levels and content. So it's not just what happens in English classrooms in the secondary. Social studies and science teachers are also working on these standards. The main shifts for those are to challenge students with different types of text. So we talk a lot about text complexity. There'll be evidence. They'll have to draw evidence from the text in writing and oral presentation. So finding proof after stating claims. And there'll be a lot of writing involved with that. And we're going to see increased vocabulary across all grades and throughout different content areas. In mathematics, we're very well prepared for that shift, especially with Idaho's Mathematical Thinking Initiative. Students will understand why math works and be asked to explain their thinking. Students will work more deeply on fewer topics, and there'll be a progression from K-12, well articulated. And students will be asked to use math in real-world situations, particularly at the secondary level. Big shift in models, math models. So a rigorous shift. To this point, district leaders have been learning about the Common Core state standards and Idaho's role in adopting them. Principals have provided on-site introductions of the core to their staffs, led by 2 prior curriculum directors, have helped facilitate some of that information sharing through the principals to teachers. Individual teachers on their own, knowing they're coming, have been reading and researching and searching actual units and lessons to help move this kind of theoretical understanding of the Idaho Core into practice. We've seen a lot of educators, and I, as a principal, former principal, the conversations are changing in the buildings about this new learning, and they're being able to really take good advantage of their PLC time and their common planning time, and will be essential that they continue to do so as we move into a different, more in-depth study and at the classroom level. The district has been providing local training to administrators and teachers. We are partnering with Idaho Leads and are running a series of their Module 1 Common Core boot camps In April, administrators and teacher leaders were trained, and those teacher leaders and administrators helped facilitate 35 new faculty in a camp in June. And now I will be, along with the teacher leaders and administrators, facilitating a workshop next Monday and Tuesday on the Common Core. And in October, during our October in-service days, we're going to serve another 70 faculty. So all together, about 175 of our faculty will run through the Idaho course overview, briefing, giving them the big picture of what they need. And then Module 2 is coming, which I'll talk about in just a few moments. And of course, we've already, for a couple of years, been aligning new adoptions, new materials that we're bringing on, and really focusing on instructional practices that align with Idaho core standards. So, what does that mean? What lies ahead for us? Our accountability. Idaho core standards will be taught in all Idaho schools this year. So the prior language arts standards for Idaho are being replaced with Idaho core, which are the Common Core state standards. We've adopted them, as well as in mathematics. We will continue to develop and refine our collective understanding of what those standards mean to us through further professional development and collegial conversations and collaboration. We really are going to have to network as teachers in our practice to learn and teach each other what this is going to actually look like and the benefits that the core will provide us in increasing rigor in our schools. We're going to continue selecting quality resources in our adoption material cycle. We're going to become more familiar with the SBAC, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. And we're going to continually further align our curriculum instruction and assessment. So I'm going to focus now on those three areas to talk further about where we are. So I want to focus here on the definition of curriculum. It is the planned interaction of pupils with instructional content, materials and resources that includes human resources, and processes for evaluating the attainment of educational objectives. You have your outcomes, which are the Idaho core standards. This is what we expect students to achieve. But it's the rest of the stuff that happens in the classroom every day. It's here are our materials, our resources, this is our time, these are our students, this is the teacher, how is everything interacting, what is the actual lessons, what is the life of learning in each classroom that is going to guide us toward mastering those standards for students. Our adoption cycle, I'll be back to the board here later this year, asking for 3 different materials adoptions. We're in year 2 of a 2-year cycle for English language arts. You were briefed on what happened in year 1. We are meeting with publishers this fall. We'll be selecting some pilot materials, and we'll be out there piloting, getting feedback, and then determining which materials we would like to recommend for adoption. So some of you have been involved in that process. Kathy, I think you were part of the math adoption this last time.
Science.
Oh, it was a science you were involved in. And so with the English language learners, we're going to be purchasing materials for teachers who teach those students in the pull-out model, or ESL classrooms, if you will, looking at some materials that they will could benefit in helping teachers reach these standards with their students. And then health and PE are also up for a 1-year adoption for materials. Also next year is a 1-year adoption for social studies. We're going to do some professional development, offer some of that and some research for our social studies teachers so that we can find the best materials out there next year. Curriculum mapping, you might have been hearing about this. This is really our guide. This is our map to all of that when I talked about resources and developing unit plans that is going to lead to achieving the Idaho core standard benchmarks. At the middle school, we've already started in the high school with the IEB template, and we're probably going to be following suit with that, and we're going to be initiating that collective effort with elementary school this year.
Does that mean you're just starting the elementary mapping process?
Correct. Yep, this year we'll be starting that mapping process.
So are we just using the Common Core standards that the state adopted as our guide right now as to what benchmarks people are teaching to?
We've been using the prior standards.
The prior standards?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and so with the shift, we've been dabbling a bit. preparing and seeing what resources that we have that we could use to still meet those same ends.
And actually, Angie, I don't want to interrupt, but if I can, the middle school mapping, they map to the Common Core standards.
Absolutely.
Right. That's her question.
Oh, I thought
What
it
you
was
said was.
elementary.
No, I'm asking elementary, what are they
Well,
currently?
we haven't mapped in elementary yet.
Right, but what are they
The other
using
way
until
to
they
map-
map, was the question.
We
Well,
still have a core curriculum
Uh-huh.
for adoptions,
Okay.
so we're following that for lesson design. We have our assessments in place, so, weekly skills tests and things like that, that have guided us towards the ISAT, which is a very skill-based assessment.
Sure.
But the actual mapping, that'll be new. That's new. It used to be, if you get online and you see some of the former curriculums, it was written. So everything was written. Now it's mapping. You design with the end in mind backwards.
Right.
And there are great teachers throughout the district who will be working together to create these curriculum maps, which is a nice common mapping to guide instruction commonly, but yet teachers are still the artists in their classroom to those ends.
Thank you.
Did I answer that question?
Yes.
I want to bring us, just to remind us all about what we're trying to achieve as articulated in our strategic plan of 21st century indicators for graduation, prepared for college and career, lifelong learning, and citizenship. Because much of what happens, of course, you've got these great materials, but it's the teacher that, is able to use them to engage students and to get the achievements that we would like to obtain. So along this lines is then, what are we doing as educators to promote these, to achieve these? And so last year we entered into a discussion with educators. That was the essential question. And a lot came out of those meetings with teachers. Principals facilitated those. That information was brought back to the Ad Council. We tried to synthesize multiple pages of information, to give back to the teachers, synthesize further. And it's back in our hands now, and it should be ready to roll out. And on the next slide, we've articulated collectively throughout the district some characteristics that we would see in educators in our district. These are more characteristics. We wanted to also look at more like an operational definition of what would you actually see if you're walking into a classroom, so that as a principal, you're supervising instruction, is it quality or not? What are some of the things that we could see? So on the next slide, this is going to look different when we roll it out. It's going to have a more appealing visual. But right now, as you can see, we've paralleled it. So when a student is prepared for college and career, a student is, and those are listed. Then when a student is prepared for college and career, the teacher has used relevant and meaningful real-world application lesson design. They have taught through inquiry and discovery. They've incorporated authentic and varied assessments. So that helps get a clearer picture of what a Blaine County high-quality educator is. So we're excited about that, and it'll help articulate what we want to see with 21st century learning in each of our classrooms. Next slide, please. All right, so Lonnie talked a little bit about the SBAC and that it is coming. We have adopted this consortium as opposed to the PART consortium in the state of Idaho. And one nice thing, he mentioned a lot about informing. So is it a test, an assessment of learning, or is it an assessment for learning? And there actually is much promise that the SBAC will inform teachers on instruction. It's going to give us some feedback and monitoring progress, and there'll be a whole suite of resources for teachers to access in interim assessments, as well as the summative at the end of each year.
How is the shift from more of a multiple choice going to change the teacher's responsibility for the assessments throughout the year to help them prepare for the oral and written portions of the English and that?
So let me talk a little bit about what the test looks like in comparison to what the ISAT has looked like. ISAT is very one question, it's like one skill, A, B, C, D, right? So there will still be what they call selected response, it's multiple choice. On the SBAC, there will be not as many, and those that will be there will be of a higher level. So for example, rather than just a skill-specific question, it might say you're going to read 2 passages and then pick which of these answers best articulates a characteristic of the, a particular topic, let's say. There will also be short responses, so students will have to write and present their thoughts in writing, citing evidence. And there will be a task performance section where they do something in the classroom and then create something. We saw Woodside, I don't know if you knew that, was selected to do a little pilot, and I went over and observed. The task that we saw was, there was an activity they did in the classroom on service animals. They saw some pictures, had a discussion, kind of built their background knowledge. They went into the testing and read another article on service monkeys, and then they were to write an article explaining around a specific question. So that was more of a performance task. So that's how they're going to be different. Now, how do we prepare? One of the next things I was going to say is the Smarter Balanced website has practice tests, and they want stakeholders to, there is a lot of transparency with the SBAC. They want teachers, they want parents, they want students to experience and see what these standards are asking them to do. So that's one of the things we're going to be doing this next year. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide here. So as mentioned before, we are a member state of the SBAC. It is designed to measure more complex abilities and engaging students to extend their task of writing and problem solving. Dr. Barber mentioned that we will be field testing. There was, at one point, we had heard that we could be double testing. They would be taking the field test for the SBAC, which isn't going to count. There's no official results. It's still a part of their norming practice. And the ISAT. And the state has applied for a waiver that we will not be providing ISATs there's some exceptions. The ISAT will not be given to anyone. So the ISAT, let me go back to the SBAC. Let's see what SBAC will do. We're going to be testing all of Idaho's children, 3rd through 8th grade. When I put this PowerPoint together, the State Department said 10 to 20% of 9th and 10th graders across the state, but a recent go-to meeting said that they would like actually that to be a higher number. So we'll have to see how much will participate in the 9th and 10th grade SBAC field test. And then 11th graders who passed the ISAT last year will be taking the SBAC also, because it will be, other than the 10th grade ISAT, it's going to be the 11th grade SBAC for graduation. So they do want to test 11th graders.
Would that have to double test this last year as part of the pilot? Did they do the ISAT and the SBAC this year?
They did. Only a section. It wasn't the entire test. Did I get that?
Yeah.
Okay.
They only did
the whole test.
English language arts.
On the SBAC?
On the SBAC.
Okay.
They did not do the math.
Okay. And actually, even as a Bellevue principal, I wasn't selected, but I went to another source called Linka, and just because I wanted some professional development for teachers, for the teachers to see what does this look like? How are they going to be testing our kids? And I know at Bellevue, and I believe it's the case at Woodside too, it just really gave us some insight. And that's why we're encouraging that this year. Let's get on and look at the Smarter Balance website. There are practice tests. Students can take that. We can have them have a sensory experience and have them provide feedback to teachers. Well, this was hard, or this was easy. And it's just going to help us prepare. So I want to be clear that no ISATs will be expected except for 11th and 12th graders who didn't pass the 10th grade ISAT. And we still need to administer science, the science ISAT, to 5th, 7th, and 10th graders, because that's still a part of NICOB and our AYP, and it's not tested on the SBAC. Okay, next slide. A little bit more information. Our 10th graders will not have to take the ISAT. I think I mentioned that a minute ago, for graduation. So our 10th graders won't have to take the SBAC, the ISAT, but some of those 10th graders will be a part of the field test. State is applying for an accountability waiver. Dr. Barber talked about this. So we're not going to have results next year. We're going to hold our star ratings for 2 years. But in 2015, the SBAC's of results will be factored in for AYP purposes. So the more we can do this next year, capture a glimpse of what's expected and really dig in there and give kids practical, authentic experiences with this increased rigor, the better. So do you have any questions for me? I kind of gave a summary, an overview of how, the focus areas for this year and our implementation cycle.
I just wanted to further clarify about the double testing at Woodside, because they also only did one grade level. They only did 5th grade. So the 5th grade did the test, but no 3rd graders or 4th graders. So it was a very small group. But the SBAC takes much longer to take.
Well, I was going to say, the SBAC takes 8.5 hours for high school.
For high school, it's 4.5 for.
Let's have a hand raised to me, Catherine.
So what I've heard is that the 3rd graders really have to be able to use the keyboard, and I've heard that that's really a big impediment to a lot of kids, especially for a long period of time. It's a long test, and I want to be able to track it.
Right. Well, like I said, we looked at the Linkit, which is supposed to be modeled very much similarly to the SBAC. There weren't as many questions as you would think. There were some. As you increased in grade level, there were more written response items. And how they're going to be graded is still not real clear with regard to artificial intelligence and teachers being involved with that and what they're going to actually measure. So maybe spelling isn't going to be, those specific variables that we would consider that we would look at in writing mechanics versus did they capture the essence of the question with the language that they chose to use. So, and it's not a time test. So it was interesting, our 3rd graders were doing more hacking, and they know a lot more about keyboarding than I even, when we do have it in our computer skills curriculum, we are teaching keyboarding, but it's definitely worthy of further, look into it. How much are we doing? Do we need to do a little bit more? And so we'll have to see how that all goes. But yes, that has been a question for us, the level of typing skills.
So if we want to see what the test looks like?
Catherine.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just curious, what the feedback has been from, teachers.
I felt that, especially
the standards.
As a building principal and now being involved with the district in training on the Common Core, they welcome the rigor. They actually feel that this is more authentic learning, that skill and drill kind of expectations with the ISAT, what did that create for our students as learners? There's our district in general, a very positive welcome of the standards.
So they feel that the standards are going to be more rigorous in their
Absolutely.
That's
But
great.
they're welcoming that, and they're seeing actually, and the way that the standards are, it really entrusts the professionalism of teachers to create that map, what materials to get students to that point. So in a way, it kind of honors that professionalism of teachers, the SBAC, and the standards themselves.
Thanks. Will all students get like a login so they can go in and look at practice tests?
So you don't even need to log in.
Yeah, it's totally open to the public, but what we're going to be conversing as an admin council, to what level would we like the students to engage in this, where it's, not overwhelming, but a little snapshot. So we'll be talking about how deliberate we want to be on really actually having the students perhaps go through a practice test. And again, getting some feedback as a professional development opportunity for teachers. They can observe, are they able to type that answer? Those kinds of.
Any other comment from Evan?
Well, I just wanted to comment that in terms of the practice tests, one of the differences between the SBAC and the ISAT is the ISAT automatically gave a score at the end. if a student just went in and took a practice test, it wouldn't be scored. I mean, they would see what the test is like, but they wouldn't get a score to see how they did.
But I talked with TJ Bliss, and we do have rubrics, so teachers can sit and score, but it
Right.
won't be scored.
Well, right, but the point that I was trying to make was that if a student on their own went to
Oh,
the
no.
site and
No.
did the test,
No.
I mean, they would have the
Well, they
experience
don't
of
get
doing the
feedback.
test, but there wouldn't be anyone there to score it. I guess
And you
mom
could
can
even sit
score
down
it.
and take it. You could log in as a.
However, it would be informative for parents.
Yeah.
Right,
So if you
yeah.
went home and you can just Google us back.
Yeah,
practice
it's
test,
right there.
You can see where they're heading, and I think all parents should do that.
And there's a lot of information on the Smarter Balanced website. Again, they're very transparent in what their goals are and the resources that they are going to be developing. It should inform teaching, it should be there as a resource to guide instructions. Looking forward to learning more about that myself.
Great.
All right?
Thank
All right,
you.
sure, thank you.
Right, next is my board chair report. We shall begin with the board review of the communication director and special education parent liaison positions. Last month, the four trustees reviewed the communication director. I should preface this, they aren't exactly all here. 3 of them are here, plus one that we lost. Reviewed the communication director and parent liaison positions. When the communication director position was approved 2 years ago, the board promised to relook at that position, and we did that last month. After reviewing the goals of the communication audit and what the communication director position has accomplished, the trustees agreed that it was a valued position for the district. A few examples of recent accomplishments include outreach during the dual immersion magnet school decision, expansion of information on the district website, surveys to the community and employees to assist in decision-making, and the electronic newsletter to the community and staff. The trustees will continue to work with the administration to define the role of this position to ensure continued benefit to our students and our community. The parent liaison position was also reviewed because this was a position funded by a private donor from its beginning a couple of years ago. After reviewing accomplishments such as developing the Parent Resource Center, designing, maintaining an informative website, and participating in the Children First support groups, and recommendations from supervisors, this position will also continue under special services. So that concludes that. Announcements. We are having a board retreat next week, August 20th, 2013. We're not telling you what time nor where it's going to be. However, I imagine that will leak out a little bit more. Yeah, and you being the official leaker. Remember to leak it 2 days ahead of time. Okay. First day of school, September 3rd, 2013. Regular special board meeting, or regular September board meeting is going to be September 10th, 2013 at 6 p.m. Unless, that would be 2 months in a row. We've had it on the second Tuesday. We'll see if we can do that. There's a schedule for, is this posted on the website?
Yes,
Or-
thank you for reminding me. And I'll bring this here.
I really don't want to go through all the dates, but we do have a schedule of dates for special meeting work sessions scheduled for the next school year. This next section, Lori kind of came up with the main board highlights. I think it sounds good to me. I've always, over the years, I've thought that there would always, I wish I had an opportunity to talk about very momentarily, in just a few sentences, the positive things that as a board member I get to experience in the school district. And I would like that during my board chair report, if a school board member has something that occurs, that, the first thing that comes to mind is Steve Guthrie's son and my son were riding down the street one day after school, found a wallet in the street. They drove it to the address and the driver's license and enveloped it. They didn't know what else to do, but they had the person's address. Just moments that we get to share with the community because of the forum that we have. I mean, I personally right now am very excited for fall sports to be starting, and I'm not excited that it may damage our kids' lungs to do it. I hope the fires are going quickly and we can get on with our fall sports. Does anybody have any thoughts? I mean, this is something for upcoming as well, Ms. Schwertel.
So I was just thinking, I've spent a lot of time on that side of the room, and the discussion usually goes right over you, and it's kind of hard to sit there and last as long as there's 2 or 3 members left. And I feel like I would like the board to be able to say thank you, to acknowledge with a follow-up, to acknowledge with a thank you note somehow. I don't know how that happens, but directly from the board. I also think about the board retreat as someone who has heard about it after the fact a couple of years. I think that we can't kid around about that. Public really has to be welcome. Especially the people who donate so much time. I know, Barbara's been here quite a few times. Penn has been here more than most people. And yes. I feel like, that has to be acknowledged that we really value them as members of the decision-making team.
It is a great opportunity for the board to work with themselves. It is a public meeting, and we have really enjoyed the fact that the public isn't there. We are not in any way breaking their trust. We talk ideas, we share things, we laugh. It's the only time we get to just hang out with each other. But no, the public is absolutely invited. And regarding, regarding communication with the board, that is already something that we're planning to be on the agenda for our retreat. We need to talk about discussion within the board, discussion outside the board, and so no, that's
yeah.
Our protocol with the audience. There are times when I feel it's very valuable that we try to. There are people in the audience who have more information than us. Surprise, and the opportunity to get that information, but also to keep it on task and to the point.
Yeah, thank you, and a follow-up. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay, so think, if there are ever things that you feel really exemplify what is good about our district, and that'll be available to us each month until we review it.
I got something real quick. This last weekend was the Blaine County Fair, and my son had the opportunity to participate in 4-H for the first time this year. And in seeing quite a few of the actual Blaine County students participate in 4-H, starting from age 9 clear up through when they graduated, I was really impressed with the quality and caliber of how they compose themselves as citizens, and I was impressed with that.
Good.
We did not. We sold the state.
Oh, you sold something? Okay. Good. Great. Well, thank you. Now, old business. Still waiting? Okay. Review and approval of tax levy certification. Mike Chatterton, School District Treasurer. Thank you.
Okay, this is our annual form that we submit to the county commissioners to give them notice of what our property tax levies will be for this coming year. And if you're familiar with the prior years, you can see that all of those numbers are exactly the same, except the tort levy and the tuition levy, which increases 3% a year. So 3% of 75,000, 76,000 is only about $2,300 a year is the amount of increases that we're allowed to take. So it's a report that is required by state statute that the board approves for us to submit to the county commissioners.
That it?
That's it.
Do I,
Questions?
I'm just wondering about the Flint Facilities Levy. What's the procedure right now for deciding whether we need it, if we're going to give it back? I mean, is that going to be, that was always the promise to the community, and I'm just wondering how that works. I mean, are we really talking about that at any point? Or when we go to the county commissioners and we ask, you know, we say this is how much of a chunk we're taking out of the public, knowing that they are also taking a chunk, we're all going after the same pot. And that was our original promise. How are we fulfilling that?
Those plans will happen later in the plant facility levy, like in year 2019, 2018, when those decisions are made whether or not we're going to collect the full levy. The initial years of the levy are money that's going to be collected to be set aside to pay for the QSEVs.
and that will ultimately be a board decision.
Those will all be board decisions.
And yeah, at the proper time, whenever, I don't even know when that is, discussion will take place. David, no other questions for Mike? Do I hear a motion to approve the tax levy certification for this year?
I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Christine?
Abstain yet again?
Yes, the second time. Yeah, I have to say, I just need some more time to think about how that all worked and to be able to face people.
Get more of the speed
Yeah.
or? Okay. Motion is passed. Make one abstention. Thank you, Mike. Update on construction projects.
Okay, the first project I'll talk about is the Wood River Middle School. We have two separate projects involved in there. The first one is that the center core area that's being remodeled into the ASB program. That is progressing very well. This week they're actually installing cabinetry, acoustical ceilings, setting ERV units, and putting all the doors and the door hardware installations. Next week they'll be doing the carpet, the base, the tile, the plumbing, all of the finish, electrical, plumbing, and final cleanup next week. So they'll be all ready for school and teacher occupancy the week of the 26th. The other small project at the middle school will be, it's the addition, the small classroom addition. And it will be, they're ahead of schedule already on that. This week they're working on the flatwork, the concrete flatwork on the inside. They've got all of the CME block installed. They'll be installing the roofing structure next week. So it'll be the installation. And so it'll all be dried in by the time school starts. That project is running about 2 weeks ahead of schedule, and it's scheduled to be open, completed by Christmas break. And it looks like it's going to be done a little bit before that. Both of the projects are on budget. One thing I wanted to point out with the addition here is part of that addition, we took the opportunity to add those ERV recovery ventilators, energy recovery ventilators on the new addition as well as the 8th grade wing we talked about to increase the air, fresh air within those buildings. So next summer we'll be looking at including the 6th and 7th grade wings at the same time with ERVs, with also to introduce more fresh air into that building. As you know, as we've talked before, is the indoor air quality in that building is not very good. And so this allowed us, when we're into this project, allowed us to increase that air quality. in that building. Okay, do you have any questions on the middle school before I move on to anyone? Okay, Hemingway, if you went into that building right now, you're gonna say, there's no way it's gonna be finished.
I went last week, yeah, quite a sight.
But I've been through several of these things in the past few years, and they all look the same at this time of the project, within 2-3 weeks of school starting, and they miraculously come together and finish up. All of the subcontractors have assured us they'll be done by the end of next week. The only thing they'll be doing is cleaning up and installing ceiling tiles the following year. So that building will also be complete and ready to go for the start of school. The projects that we're looking at for next year, we talked about with the staff, is we would look at a small little addition to the music room, expansion of the cafeteria area with the kitchen, be some little bit of site improvements with the parking lot and things like that that we just didn't feel like we had time to finish this year, so, as well as parking. So those will be things that we'll start talking about probably in October to start getting ready to gear up for next summer. The safety security, all the camera installation is going well, the data cabling is all going well. I talked with several subcontractors today. Everybody feels very comfortable on finishing that project by the end of next week. We've got plenty of manpower on there on the project to make sure that they're all done and finished. Do you have any questions on Hemingway? It's scary you're going there right now.
I took a tour with Brian last week. He had, the place was a mess, but the stuff that was the work, running the well work, the boilers, the heat exchangers, the tough stuff was done. That was just putting ceiling tiles back up, pulling visting off of piles of desks and stuff. He had great confidence that it was going to be done without problem. I said, well, the teachers really like 2 weeks, because some of them like to come in and work that first week, so the week they have to go to school isn't as big, as much a transition from summer. And he said, we felt great, so it's good, man, good job.
We'll reallocate a lot of our resources from other buildings in that last week to really concentrate on Hemingway to get it all cleaned up and ready to go, so it looks really nice for the start of school. So we've talked with Howie several times, and we all feel very comfortable with being able to pull this off. Haley Elementary, this is a small little remodel we have down in the ASD program. It's all going according to the plan. We installed drywalls and all of the finish work this week. We'll be already gone through the plumbing and the electrical inspections. We'll be starting painting next week. And that is also scheduled to be completed about 2 weeks after school starts. And that project is also on budget. So all of the major noise that would take place will all be completed before start of school.
And we made the trim work and things like that.
Just small finish work and trim and just the completion of the carpeting, flooring, that type of stuff.
The ASD program wasn't scheduled to move there this year.
Right.
Anyway.
Right.
So we're not, I mean, other than what impacts people being in that room, it doesn't impact the program.
Yeah, there was no need
That
to
allows
push
you all
that.
year of preparation to get it ready. We don't usually get that from just anybody.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure that it wasn't pushed and they weren't really forced to be done by the time the school started because there was no critical dates that they had to hit.
Yeah. Great.
Appreciate
Any
that.
other questions? No? Thank you, Mike. Item 13, public comment regarding tonight's agenda. We need some public here to. You're missing
One
public.
lonely person.
Ken snuck out.
I know.
No, we could have gotten her up there. Do I hear a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
We don't get Dawn.